Good morning, YouTube. I was going to do a full day today, and then I got stuck into work this morning. Forgot to film. So welcome. Today is Thursday the 19th of June, and I've got legs today. And I realised, let's put that on Do Not Disturb. I realised that I haven't actually filmed a leg day, and obviously my category or with the bodybuilding, it's been very much about kind of obviously growing the legs. So I thought it'd be a good opportunity to kind of take you through a bit of the day in the life, although you haven't seen this morning. But for me, the routine doesn't really change. I got up this morning at 5, took Winnie out before it gets really hot, because at the moment in the UK it is bloody boiling. So we went out and did about 45 minutes of walking this morning, came back, and then I just got stuck into work. So I had my Thursday check-ins today, no PT. So how I kind of structure my Thursday is I do a block of work from about sort of 6:30 till about 11, 11:30, and then I go up and train over lunchtime, and then I come back, and then I do like a second block of work, and I quite like to set it up like that. So yeah, plan of action will be to take you along the ride for my legs, show you how I train legs. It's mainly quads today, so maybe I'll give you some tips on how I've, grown my quads, because they've definitely grown over the last 2-3 years, and there's definitely a few kind of cues and tweaks that I've made to my training that have essentially made a big difference. Ultimately, you need to be, if you want to be growing, you need to be eating. So I had porridge this morning as my breakfast, always have that. So porridge, whey, and I'm having walnuts at the moment as my fat source, which is very nice. And then my pre-workout meal is always eggs on toast. So I'll have this now, let this digest, and then we'll head up for leg day. And our gym doesn't have aircon, so I'm already anticipating that it's going to be a very sweaty session, which is why I'm making sure that I'm drinking loads of water. I'm probably going to be on like 3 litres of water by the time I train. And actually, the more you sweat and the hotter it is, the more water you need. So yeah, I'm going to get this meal down me, get this water down me, let this meal digest, and then I will take you through legs. And then I will also take you through a little bit of my food, of what I'm eating. We're just about to go into kind of a push phase. So after my show, obviously reverse that on my show, got my body into a healthy place, because when you get stage lean, that's not healthy. So we reversed out, got my body into a good place. We then went into a grow phase for sort of about 4 months, which was good. And then we've just done kind of like a holding phase. So we've essentially just kept food potentially at sort of a maintenance amount. My training is still very much progressed within the gym, so that's been good, but the goal hasn't necessarily been to see the scale weight kind of go up. And you kind of have to do that a little bit. Like, you can't just grow for months and months, but you do also need to understand that when you do build muscle, it is a slower process to fat loss. So, somebody can get leaner week by week, but when it comes to building muscle, to actually build new muscle, it is months and years. So we've kind of set it up like that, where we're gonna, like I said, I grew, then I held for a little bit, still progressed with my training, and then we're going to be pushing food again, so pushing it back into that surplus, and just keeping an eye on everything. You don't need to. I don't like to be in a massive surplus, because one, I don't deal very well with getting too out of shape, just from a mental perspective. And also, I always think in the back of my mind that potentially that body fat has got to come off. So we always just look for like a nice steady rate of gain. We do know that you need to get the most out of growing when you are more of an advanced trainer. Okay, when you're new to weight training, you can potentially do both at the same time, in the sense of drop body fat and build muscle. But when you become more advanced in your training years, you have to split the two up. And we do know that the most gains come from when we're in a surplus, we're letting that scale weight go up. So that's essentially what we would be looking to do tomorrow, actually, because I have my check-in on a Friday with Dan. So it's already kind of mapped out that we'll be looking to enter a push phase, which I'm excited to do, to be fair. So yeah, I'm going to have this food now. Then I'm going to take you up to the gym and we'll hit some quads. So, leg day. I always have to warm up nowadays. I can't just go in and fling a load of weight around anymore. So I always do just a little bit of a warm up, just kind of mobilizing myself, I suppose. Kind of my thoracic part of my spine does get quite tight, so I do kind of like to just do some openers with regards to that, and then I kind of focus a little bit on kind of opening up the hips, because I have got 2 squat patterns on today, and just kind of warming up the knees and just getting my knees used to kind of knee flexion, because this is a quad day for me. So this is kind of, you know, when you're looking to grow your quads or train your quads, then something that we need to kind of focus on is creating knee flexion, because the more knee flexion you can essentially create, the more stretch you're going to get on your quads, which in turn is going to help them grow. So yeah, for me, I just do kind of sort of a 10-minute warm up, quite a bit of dynamic stuff as opposed to static stretching, and just essentially just get my body ready. And then the first exercise that I've got today is the leg extension. So with regards to kind of like warming up on exercises, I suppose everybody might have a slightly different way of doing this. So for me, it's about kind of activating the muscles that I'm trying to target. So obviously this is an isolation exercise for quads. So I tend to just sort of make sure that the setup of the seat and everything's right, and then I just put a light weight on there, and I just focus on getting a bit of blood, drawing a bit of a connection, but not causing obviously any damage. You know, we don't really want our warm-up sets to kind of take away from our working sets, or I definitely don't anyway. So for me, it's just a case of lightweight, getting the connection, and just focusing on getting some blood into the muscles. With regards to this movement, essentially what we kind of want to think about with this is it is an isolation exercise. So we are wanting the quads to predominantly do most of the work, right? So cues for me when I'm thinking about this movement is keeping my bum down. So as I lift up and squeeze my quads and get them short at the top, I don't really want to be like flinging my hips around. I also find for me getting a little bit of a squeeze at the top really just helps from a connection point of view, rather than sort of rushing and missing that point. And when we think about it, probably the hardest point of this movement is when you're driving it up and trying to get your quads essentially short. So we want to spend time there. Obviously you don't need to spend 5 hours there, but for me, when I started to kind of add a hold at the top and think about the movement at the top, I definitely found that my connection for these was better. So I've essentially kind of found my working weight now. I do always log my exercises, and I think that's quite important, just so that you can keep an eye on your progressions. I use lifting straps, and I find them very, very helpful for keeping my bum down. So for me, it's about sort of just controlling the way down, driving the quads up and getting them short at the top. This is a cluster set, so I've essentially got kind of like 3 sets with a very short rest. So I do 8 reps to start with, and essentially I haven't gone to failure on that first set because I've got 3 rounds. The last set is the set that I kind of go to failure. So I think I've got 65 on there today. So I have added a little bit of weight. So little rest between sort of 10 to 15 seconds, and then I go again, getting another 8 reps. This definitely felt hard today. I'm not sure whether it was just hot, but yeah, I really, really felt this on my quads. Again, like I said, just kind of getting that squeeze at the top, keeping that bum down. Obviously, there's a little bit of movement to my upper body, but on the whole, you know, we want the quads to be the thing that's obviously lifting up. And obviously, you can see there in the second set, I'm starting to struggle. I'm having to fight for those reps, and in my head I know that this last set, so for this one now, the last set essentially is just me going to failure. I know that this is just going to be bloody awful, not enjoyable. Anyway, so for me now, like I said, on the last set, I'm just looking to go to failure. And I think for things like leg extension, you can very safely go to failure, right? So failure for me is just that I'm not going to be able to kind of complete that last rep, the last couple of reps. A good way of kind of thinking about it is that there should probably be a change in speed to those last 2 reps. So you can see there, that's already beginning to look slow. I'm actually struggling to get that rep up. I try and fight for another one, and I'm just like, nah, haven't got it. So I make a note of that, and then I will stay on that weight and just try and see if I can get an extra rep next week. Okay, so moving on to the pendulum, and this pendulum in particular is bloody heavy. I'm actually doing some tempo work on this, so I ran this for a period of time and got quite strong with just kind of doing a controlled speed up and down, but we've now switched to some tempo work. So I've done a couple of warm-up sets, and this is essentially my warm-up set. No, this essentially is my work-in set. So for me, essentially what I'm thinking about with this, okay, is again creating as much knee flexion as I can. So I'm thinking about keeping my core really tight and letting my knees travel forward, keeping my ankles down. So I always try and push through the mid part of my foot and essentially push my ankles out, and try and keep my knees kind of tracking in a straight line. So you can see this is obviously tempo work. I'm following a speed here. We're obviously controlling the way down, and we're actually also doing tempo work where we're controlling essentially the way up, and this is a bloody killer. So if you've ever done tempo work before, you'll know what I mean by this. So the focus that I'm focusing on with regards to this one is controlled on the way down, controlled on the way up for 3 reps, and then we do sort of 2 normal speed reps, and then we essentially just keep repeating that until I can't go anymore. And it's horrible. Once the blood and the damage gets into your quads, it's not enjoyable, but I find it very good from sort of a connection point of view. And for me, that was something that I struggled with. I struggled to connect with my quads for quite a while. So we have done quite a lot of tempo work over the years, and it's definitely kind of helped me. So yeah, pushing hard here, okay, trying to keep my body nice and tight, sort of not flinging the weight around. And then yeah, you can see it goes from, it's funny, you go from having the weight to suddenly having no weight and your legs are completely dead. But anyway, I'll stay on that weight now and just try and see if I can improve the amount of rounds that I do. Moving on next to the leg press. So I've got a drop set on this. I did a warm-up set before, and then I will move in. I find like the further I get into my training, I probably need less warm-up sets because I'm already kind of warm and I've probably already worked those areas. So I like the horizontal leg press. I find that I can get kind of good depth on this and good kind of range. What I'm doing to kind of bias the quads on this movement is just having my feet relatively low on the platform and just sort of trying to create as much range of motion as I come down. So you'll see in a second that I'm really trying to sort of control myself into the hard bit and get a really good kind of essentially stretch on the quads. So getting myself into position, making sure that my bum is essentially pushed back, and I'm also trying to just keep the tension on my quads here. So I kind of like push through but don't essentially lock my knees out. I'm kind of just trying to keep all tension on my quads, and it very quickly gets very hard. But I do like this leg press, to be fair. So yeah, this is a drop set. So obviously, again, I'm looking for that kind of change in speed in those last 1 to 2 reps. So obviously you can see there's a change in speed. And then essentially me pushing in that last rep, you can see obviously it's slow. And it's funny because when you watch it back, you think, oh, I've got one more. But at the time, it definitely didn't feel like I had one more. So I've got to take the weights off. and then it's straight back into a drop set. So it's just as many reps as I can until my legs physically can't move anymore. So like I said, cues for this is feet lower, get good range. I always aim for knees to tits for me. I'm quite short, so I can easily quite do that. Keeping my bum fixed down, and then obviously failure is just like that. Last rep, very slow. Question whether you're going to shit your pants or not. Final kind of squat pattern movement for me is the Bulgarian split squat. So to make this more quad focused for me, I kind of elevate my front foot, and I'm also thinking about letting my knee travel forward. Obviously some people do the Bulgarian and they try and bias the glutes, where we will be looking to obviously not create knee flexion. So we'll be looking for kind of like our shin to stay relatively straight. And that will force us to go back into kind of hip flexion extension. So for me, it's just getting myself into that position, making sure that I feel nice and stable, that the weight is all in all of my feet, not just like in my toes or in my heels. And then the first thing that I'm thinking about doing here is sending that knee forward. So my body stays a little bit more upright. I'm controlling the way down. I'm trying to, again, keep complete tension on the quads. So I'm not really resting much at the top, and I'm just kind of going up, down, until I can't go anymore. So yeah, this is a quad focused Bulgarian. Okay, knee really traveling kind of forward off of the ankle joint, getting that kind of big stretch on the quad. And then again, I start to obviously struggle. Those last 2 reps, there we go. You can start to see there's a change in speed. And then again, fight. And the thing is, if I tried to take another rep at that point, my form would probably be quite dodgy. And then wrapping up the quad day with abductors. So what I'm kind of thinking about with this movement is just getting a really good stretch on the adductors itself. So just kind of sort of controlling the way out in my head, kind of counting 1 in the hold, and then obviously keeping my body sort of locked in and squeezing as I come through. Although this isn't directly a quad exercise, obviously having big adductors can also make your legs look bigger. So yeah, controlling the way out, getting a little squeeze, getting a little hold, keeping the body still, and then again obviously just taking it to failure. And I think, you know, with most machines you can do that pretty safely. You can just keep going until you physically can't go anymore. So yeah, this was a good session. Few kind of tips with regards to kind of quads. Think about knee flexion, think about creating that stretch, think about where it's hard. Those things have really helped me. Hello. It's bloody hot, isn't it, my darling, eh? It's bloody boiling. What have you been up to? What have you been doing? Hey? What have you been doing? Hey? You showing me? What are you showing me? Hey? What have you got in your mouth? What have you got there? Very nice. God, it is bloody hard training. Training in the heat is hard, isn't it? And our gym, like I said earlier, doesn't have aircon, so that definitely was tough. But good session, to be fair. Made some good progress with regards to that, so that's always good. So post-workout time, I always have chicken with a little garnish, and then my cereals, so Rice Krispies. So quite a bit of carbs with this meal, but this is the time when you're probably going to be most sensitive, or essentially you're probably going to utilize these carbs because you've just worked your muscles, right? So your muscles are going to be in a position where they're going to be like, feed me. So protein to help recovery, carbs. I like to have a little bit of salad. So this is my post-workout meal now, which I need to kind of eat this, and then I need to get back to work. So I've got a few client programs that I need to update their gym workouts. And then what else have I got to do? I've got a new client who's starting at the end of the month, so I just need to go through her forms and make a start on kind of setting her up. I've also got a little bit of planning from a content perspective, so I will sit and essentially do that this afternoon. But it's bloody hot. My house is like a new build, so it just feels, well, you probably find that it's bloody hot in your house at this moment, but it just feels disgusting in here, to be honest. So I think I might have to bring the fan down from the bedroom into the kitchen, and I will work now for the next 2 to 3 hours. So yeah, I'll have this meal, and then I need to get stuck into work, and then I'll pick you up later on. Bloody hell, I am sweating my absolute tits off. It is so bloody warm. Anyway, so done my bit of work, and I just crack on now with meal prep. What I always do is when I cook the dinner, I always do the meal prep. And I say meal prep, but it's Niall's meal prep. Because I work from home, I don't tend to actually prep my meals, because one, they're very easy meals, like oats, I can make that in 2 minutes, eggs on toast, I can make that in 2 minutes, but I don't tend to make my meal prep. However, I understand what it's like to meal prep, because I meal prep all of Niall's food. So yeah, I'm going to finish up the meal prep. I need a shower. I've not had a shower since the gym, but anyway, I figured that I was going to sit here sweating anyway, so I may as well just have a shower at the end of the day. So yeah, going to cook the dinner now and sort the meal prep out. I'm having beef burger and potatoes for dinner, and then I'm going to walk Winnie, but it's going to have to be later, because it's still at the moment 32 degrees, so she cannot go out in this. So it's going to have to be an evening walk when it's a little bit cooler. So yeah, I'm going to have my dinner now, and then steps in a bit. Burger, salad and potatoes. I have had less potato. I do macros for my evening meal, so I've got less potatoes, and I'm having one of these little sandwich fins for dinner. So yeah, very much need this. This is meal 4, and then I've got my evening meal, but I'll have that after the shower and after the steps. Oh, something nice about having a nice cold shower. So it's the evening now. It's 6:45, and for me, my evening routine is super, super important, because for all of us, to be fair, but you want a routine, I think, in the evening that's going to allow you to pull stress down. So you don't want to be doing super stressful things. I think, having that bit of chill time to just be able to relax. Sleep is obviously very, very important. So for me, I essentially know that I'm always going to get up at 5, which means that I need to be thinking back. I know that my optimal amount of sleep is it's about 8.5 hours. So for me, I need to be like, right, 8, half 8, I need to be winded down if I'm getting up at 5. Obviously, if you don't get up at 5, then your evening routine might look slightly different, slightly later. But I think, if you're looking to build muscle, if you're looking to drop body fat, if you're generally just looking to feel good, then I think a evening routine where you are just relaxing, bringing that stress down, and a good sleep routine is super, super important. Essentially, the more sleep you get, the better your body's going to recover, the better your body's going to feel. So it is something that I very much do prioritize, and it is something that I kind of make sure that my clients are also doing that. And if they struggle with their sleep, then we look into why. We look into, is it sleep hygiene? Is it the routine? Is there something that maybe that can be improved for some women as they go through kind of the perimenopause, when those hormones start to decline? That can affect sleep, so that might be where we need to actually look into bloods and supporting their hormones. But yeah, a really nice evening routine, not nice, but a chilled evening routine is something that I think for a lot of people, it is maybe something that people neglect, but actually it's very, very important. So yeah, so I've just had essentially a shower. What steps am I on? Let's have a little look. So I'm on 12.5k already. I don't necessarily track my steps because I do 3 dog walks a day and I potter around, I suppose. And then obviously on the days when I have PT, I'll be moving a lot. So it normally is anywhere between like 15 to 18k. And that's just my lifestyle. So to be fair, I've got to do an evening walk. So obviously Winnie's only actually had 1 walk today just because it's been way too hot for her to be out. So going to be walking a little bit later tonight, but also walking is also something that is, from a stress point of view, very good for us. Obviously not if you're going to be doing a 5-hour hike up a mountain, then that's going to be essentially a bloody workout. But actually a lot of people, I think, underestimate the benefits of walking from a stress management point of view, especially getting yourself outside in the fresh air. You know, it's a really good beneficial thing that I think a lot of people maybe sometimes sort of underlook, in the sense of that, oh, I've got to go and do my steps, when actually it's a really good opportunity for you to maybe break up your day with steps, break up your work day, or finish your evening with some steps. That can be just a really nice way to get yourself into that kind of relaxed state, because that's essentially what we want. So yeah, gonna go and walk Winnie now, and then I've got my last meal, and then like I said, it'll be 8, half 8, I'll be getting ready to go to bed. It's probably one of my favourite meals, my last meal. So I've got Greek yogurt, Eton Mess whey. I've also got some rice cakes in there, but you can't see it, but it's really nice because, a bit like Eton Mess I suppose, you have the like crunchy texture, and then I've also got some fruit in there, and I've got some walnuts and some peanut butter. Yeah, up there with one of my favourite meals, I reckon. You should try it. Good morning. Bloody hot through the night, wasn't it? I think the thermostat said that it didn't get below 17 degrees, so it's actually quite nice to come out this morning. It's half 5 now, and it's actually just a nice cool temperature. So get out and give Winnie a good 45 minutes this morning, because normally I walk her 3 times a day, but obviously with the heat at the moment, she's only going to be able to have 1 in the morning and 1 in the evening. Although she's a funny little thing, because I think she actually quite likes the sun. Because many times yesterday, she was just sat, when it was like 30 degrees, she just sat outside, living her best life. And I'm like, love, you're going to absolutely boil out there. But anyway, we can't be walking them in 30 degrees because they're poor little feet. So today is day 1 of getting massive. And not much changes really, because my training will stay the same. We're just going to move my food now into a surplus, so there will now be a steady rate of gain. We normally aim for sort of maybe about 0.5% of my body weight per week, or maybe just under. That's normally kind of a good indicator. But the main thing that I kind of go off when I am in a growth phase is my training. Like, you know, is my training progressing? I think that's a big one. If you are growing, that's what you want to keep an eye on. So yeah, day 1 of that today. So I'll do my check-in this morning, and then I'll wait for feedback. But like I said, we've just been maintaining for a few weeks, which has actually been quite nice. It's given me quite a good insight, because when you do kind of bodybuilding, you are in these 2 processes where you're like cut bulk, cut bulk, cut bulk. So it was quite nice to just maintain, and it's given me a really good insight to how kind of easy it is to kind of maintain, like that my food now to maintain is at a really decent amount, and that training, you can still very much enjoy training, the progressive training. So yeah, so time to get back to getting massive now. So walk Winnie. Fridays are always quite a busy day for me. I've got check-ins, PT. I have like a course call. I'm doing a course at the moment, so we have that. I've also got to meet Mitch because we've got a presentation to write. We've been going to basically a company and delivering sort of general health and wellness kind of tips to help the people within the work to improve their lifestyle. And we've covered things like nutrition, things to help with your mental health, routine supplementation, exercise, lots of things. So we're back in with them in July, so I need to meet him this afternoon to write the presentation. So yeah, busy Friday, but nevertheless I do like being busy. So yeah, I get a walk Winnie now, and then it'd be back home. I like to try and start work at about 6:30. I am a morning person, like I am always kind of up early, even on weekends, and I'm most productive in the morning. So I think with regards to you just need to find when you are most productive and kind of, I suppose, centre things around that. So yeah, gonna walk Winnie now, get back and get stuck into work. Good afternoon. Isn't it bloody hot? I hope you're doing all right on this Friday. So after discussions, obviously absolutely just nailed the mini cut. Like you said, probably the easiest diet phase that you've actually done. And I do think that the more times you get experience with it, and kind of, locking in, understanding the objective, we understand that we're not dieting forever. Okay, I do think that you do mentally just get a lot stronger with regards to fat loss phases, and you absolutely smash that. We're in a very, very nice spot to be able to move into an improvement phase. And obviously after discussions around kind of the areas in which you'd like to bring up, all right, the training split has kind of been built around that. So obviously you've said to me, okay, that obviously quads, glutes and shoulders is the focus. So with that being set, that's essentially kind of how the training is. So we've gone with a 5-day split, okay, and I've centered the rest days as Thursday, obviously, you said is a good day for you to rest because you have obviously the little one at home, and then obviously we'll have a rest day on the Sunday. So the current split will obviously be like 3 days on, 1 day off, 2 days rest, okay? And if you look at kind of the training sets here, okay, you can see that obviously across the week, quads, glutes and shoulders are obviously the highest ratio, right? Okay, obviously you're still going to work things like your hamstrings, okay? There still is some back work in there, but with that being the goal, okay, we want to make sure that there is a decent amount of volume coming from that across your week. All right. Bloody hell, I don't think I could be any more hot than if I tried. But successful day. I've not really filmed much because the reality of it is doing my job. I spend a large percentage of time at the laptop. If I'm doing the online stuff, I went up and did PT this morning, which was good. And I like to do both. I like training, so I like to train people, but then I also, the online is great because you can kind of combine helping people with training, but also helping people with their goals, which often involves, the nutrition element of it, the mindset element of it, the lifestyle element of it, all of those things. So yeah, it's been a successful day. It's now 20 to 5. I did go and pop and get my nails done. I went for a nice bright colour because they were disgusting. So I did pop and do that this afternoon, but then I came straight back to work. And I suppose the advantage of being self-employed is you can do that. So yeah, been a successful day today. It's now obviously coming into the weekend. So for me, it's just actually tomorrow I'm training with Kel. So one of my online clients, she's competing this year, which is very, very exciting. So I'm meeting her and we're going to train legs and then have a bit of an in-person check-in. So I'm very much looking forward to that. So that's essentially what's going to happen tomorrow. Obviously starting the kind of push phase now. So like I said to you yesterday, not loads changes. The training plan doesn't change because I'm progressing with that. And we changed tweaked a couple of exercises a couple of weeks ago, but you know, I think once you get into a position with your training, you know the exercises that you get on with, and you just try and progress for as long as you can with those exercises. And when progressions start to stall, then you might, you know, tweak things out, take an exercise out and replace it for something else, or try a different tempo, or try a different kind of order, or something like that. So yeah, so the training plan is set, the food is set, and I'm just going to take you along the ride over the next 6 weeks, and just essentially kind of show you, you know, what happens. What I'll do next week is maybe do a physique update, so you can kind of see, obviously if you follow me on Instagram, then you will see my physique, but I'll do an update on kind of where it is and where potentially it looks at the end of the 6 weeks. Because like I said, your scale weight has to go up. You have to embrace that you are going to gain a little bit of body fat, okay, but with structure, okay, you can do it in a way that actually you're not gaining excessive amounts, because the longer you can stay in a growth phase for, because like I said before, it does take months to build muscle, you know, not weeks like it does with fat loss. So yeah, gonna leave the YouTube here, all right, and I will catch you on the next one.